Hello?
Give me 1 second. Can you hear?
Hello?
Hi. Can you hear me?
Hey. Yes, I can't see you. Oh, there you are. Yeah,
How are you
How are you
doing?
doing?
I'm good.
Okay, hold on. You're
That's great. Yeah, now I can see you. Perfect.
okay. Tell me what's up with you.
Well, I've 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 been forced to learn something about our government, which is that I'm relieved to know that Congress people have to be elected every 2 years. So
Yes,
I didn't know that. So it means that there's a possibility of flipping Congress back in 2 years.
yes.
Um, and there are 33 Senate seats that will be up in 2 years, but that might be more difficult. I don't know which seats they are. So
Right. Yeah. Um, I
I'm looking for silver linings here.
no, I hear you. Okay, I think well, no. I mean, all right, if we talk about this week and the confirmations and all that, that's just a straight up clown show, right?
Well,
Let's hold you to last week. You said let's just talk about popular culture this week.
yes, okay.
Let's hold ourselves to that.
All right, good. Okay.
But no, that is a silver lining, and I am definitely looking forward to the
Right.
midterms. And as we talk about popular culture, I know I am obsessed with politics, and it's hard to separate those things. Even I don't know,
Well,
but
I'm thinking, yeah, if you could talk about popular culture, we could say, was she wrong to have all of those celebrities endorse her?
right, it all ties together, and yeah. But no, okay. Something we rarely talk about ever, sports. I wasn't raised a sports person, though you did take me to a Yankees game, and I did, I've had
You
some
you
sports
you
experiences.
were you were very, very close to Reggie Jackson. You were in the front of, I mean, you were literally, his bum was about 50 feet away on the field.
Oh, okay. I am not a huge Yankees fan. However, Reggie Jackson is one of my favorite baseball players of all time, mostly because he had a candy bar, and I have to admit that. It was the Do you remember the Reggie bar?
Yes, I do. Yeah,
No,
absolutely.
I do love Reggie Jackson. No, and I do remember. I mean, remember that as much as yeah, yeah. But okay, sports. Jake Paul, Mike Tyson. Any thoughts? Any?
Well, I only followed it at the very end because I kept seeing these headlines that he was going to fight an influencer. And my idea of an influencer, is is a young woman. I don't know. I didn't realize that his influencer was actually a big beefy guy that was going to beat him. So I
I I well, I think all the dude. Okay, well, all right. We said we were going to talk about politics, and
It
immediately we
taught
have.
me something about my prejudices towards what constitutes an influencer.
But no, but this is important because they say, and again, I said we weren't going to talk about politics. Trump was elected by influencers, and those are Joe Rogan and people like that who are. That's what an influencer is, and they consider themselves very. I mean, they are all about manliness and alpha and all that. So that is interesting. That yes, in my mind too. When I think of an influencer, I think of a travel influencer, someone who does makeup tutorials. I
Yeah,
do maybe think of a female as well. Crafting, all those kinds of things. No, that is interesting. But no, influencer very much means. And Jake Paul, to me, it's how he made his way from novelty joke athlete to real athlete is kind of interesting. I mean, he just beat Mike Tyson. I don't know. I mean, I didn't watch it. Of course, I don't have Netflix. Wait, did you? Have you been to boxing? Like growing up in Madison Square Garden was a big boxing venue and arena. Now it's usually Las Vegas.
I have never been to a boxing match. I've never been interested in,
No.
but uh, your mother modeled fur coats with Muhammad Ali,
Oh,
and we met him,
yes.
and he was um, immeasurably charming and humble and interesting and nice
Mhm.
in in real life in that capacity, So, and I admired him a lot because of his anti-Vietnam War stand at a time.
Yes.
He was extremely popular, and that was extremely unpopular. So,
Yeah.
um, so I don't know. I I followed Mike Tyson a little bit, and a friend of mine, a writer called Daphne Merkin, this goes back some years, she did a piece on him and had interviewed him at some length.
Hmm.
And he's a very, very complex person. I mean, he's
Sure.
more. I was really disappointed that he got beaten because I'm thinking of it from an age point of view. And I was
Yes.
hoping that he would stand up for the senior citizen kind of, being able to beat some young punk guy.
No, I agree too. I mean, yeah, if as much as I was rooting for anyone, which does surprise me because he's had some pretty controversial moments in his past. But yeah, I agree with you. Complex individual, and I was hoping he would win too, just for again beat the young guy who isn't even a real athlete, but is now because he beat Mike Tyson. I don't know. But no, I agree with you. I don't. I have very little interest in boxing as a sport because I don't think. I mean, I get it. It has history going all the way back to, but it's people punching each other. That's not interesting to me. But many of the figures, going, including Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, there have been many figures in boxing who are interesting themselves. And but in and
Yeah,
of it,
boxing has been, I think, was perhaps one of the first sports where an individual without education per se could, let's say, fight their way to the top. In other words, to get from a very impoverished, humble background to
yes,
to world celebrity, which is interesting to me. I don't. I mean, there are other sports that will do it, but I guess they still require skill. But I think because boxing is so basic,
hmm
I mean, I think it's. I'm probably. Uh, I could be. A lot of people would argue with me. It's because it does require a great deal of skill, but it is basically two people hitting each other. So
right.
it's kind of pointless. I mean,
I know. I mean, again,
I can
you
see
raised
two
me,
people
so
one trying to run faster than the other. I can see that, um, but they're not
I,
hitting each other.
but however, no. But then, okay. Well, you raised me, so of course that's going to be my perspective. Not surprising, my perspective too. But people say it does involve speed. It does involve physics. It does involve. But I don't know. I don't know. What else?
Yeah,
Um,
people die doing it, or they get brain damaged eventually. And
well, I mean, that's the other reason I have a hard time. I mean, but the same is true with football. In football could be really easily fixed by just wearing different types of helmets that they won't approve because they look funny, not because I mean it's. But yeah, no, it's true. No,
I didn't know that. That's
but
very.
no, I mean, and some players will wear them, and they're allowed to wear them at training. But even having your picture taken wearing one at training is. But I think players more and more are thinking, this is my brain. And and the types of brain damage they can't test for while you're alive. You will only ever find out, did I have the brain damage after an autopsy, and so there aren't even really good treatments. So I think I hope boxing is a sport, yeah, compared to the 80s when Don King, that era, it's barely a sport now. I mean, it's not, which is fine with me, but football is huge, and it's the same. uh, I mean, brain is specific. I mean, what you do to people's bodies with sport is their choice, but I think how we protect our brains, I think, is the responsibility of the league officials and others in those sports.
Okay, so here's my question. So you say that they can't make helmets, football helmets, safe that the players will wear from a sartorial point of view. In other words, they look silly, right?
Yep.
I feel the same way about bicycle helmets. I think they look silly. I mean, I don't ride a bicycle. If I did ride a bicycle, I'd be looking for a helmet that didn't look silly, actually. And I
which is hard. When I lived in New Mexico and owned a motorcycle, there was no helmet law. It was one of the few states left, like New Mexico, Arizona.
But motorcycle helmets don't look silly. Most of them. They look threatening or evil or dangerous.
But because you weren't required to wear one, I didn't. Then as an adult, as a more grown-up adult, as a parent, I always wore a helmet. I always encouraged wearing a helmet. Now I see most people on bikes I see are riding rental bikes and they don't have a helmet. I see the people on the scooters. Those are actually even more dangerous because they're riding on the sidewalk. And like scooter accidents are, do you have a lot of the scooters in the city? Are those?
Yes, we have every form of 1- and 2-wheeled.
Yep.
And they move without regard to direction, the street direction, without regard to pedestrians or traffic. Everybody is afraid of them, and I don't know what the statistics are for accidents, but I think a lot of people on them and off them are being hurt every day. I mean, it's and I'm not just talking about bike, messengers. I'm talking about parents with their children precariously balanced.
I see very young children themselves, and I wonder what the age for operating the scooters, like barely over the handlebars, and I wonder. Is there? I don't know.
I don't know, but it's particularly bad right outside our building on West 38th Street because there's huge construction with the building next door, and so which extends way out into the street. And then they put a bike lane added on to the end of that construction.
Yes.
With plastic red and white and yellow, white and orange kind of thing. So you don't actually know whether that's for pedestrians on the sidewalk or the bicycles. And they come racing around 9th Avenue and they just come barreling down there, and then they have to swerve quickly back into a bike lane. And I think I'm all for, but when you see, and maybe this is just superficial, but when you see films of Amsterdam, you see these people bicycling to work and they're going at a reasonable rate. They're speeding and I don't know. they look much more in harmony with the. I think it's because the problem with New York is that traffic is relatively slow, which is safe.
Yes.
And people drive very far, as fast as they can on bicycles, just for the hell of it.
Yes.
So anyway, but
Okay.
As an older person, I'm becoming more and more aware of how I step into the road.
Yes. No. Yeah. Definitely. All right. Thoughts on the robot AI that sold a work of art at Sotheby's for a sum that was larger than was anticipated, but that's not necessarily the most interesting part.
It, I didn't.
A robot, a work of art
A piece of art made by a robot.
yes, sold at Sotheby's for a
Well,
record sum.
they've been selling NFTs and things like that. I mean, it's kind of a novelty. I mean, I don't think it wasn't sold. Yeah, it was auctioned off. It wasn't in an art auction. Well, maybe it was. I mean, I barely registered this.
Yeah.
I barely registered this. I mean, to be honest, the guy that paid $400 million for the Leonardo, most of that wasn't painted by AI, but it wasn't painted by Leonardo. So I mean,
Right.
I don't think that event establishes. I don't think that event will become a great historical first. In other words, I don't think that the art world market history is going to suddenly be transformed and everybody will be buying.
Right.
Why would you pay? I don't know. I don't understand how you could arrive at that. But maybe people don't understand that about a painting by a person. But it seems to me that isn't it infinitely reproducible? I mean, or something like what is unique? There's nothing unique about it, right?
Okay. No. Okay.
Other than its method of manufacture.
Right. No, and I agree. And no, and actually, I have a quote by the AI itself. I agree with everything you said. What is interesting, the only thing that caught my attention about it was that it was at Sotheby's. It was part of a digital art sale. I mean,
okay, yeah, all right.
Or another, but digital art. I mean, a human artist working in the digital realm to me is still different from this, but I'm not. I agree with you. I don't think this is changing anything. I don't think it's time. I don't think it's going to displace any real artists. I don't think it's. I'm not worried about it, and I'm barely interested in it. But I was curious. Why this happened a while ago, but I was curious, just kind of what you thought. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to say Sotheby's is reportedly in not in very great shape right now. I think if you could convince them that you had a dinosaur's fart, they would auction it off. I think, know. In other words, they need something sensational to maintain. I don't know. They both auction houses went hot and heavy for NFTs, and I don't think they ever made any money doing that. I don't think, and some of those sales actually had to be canceled at the last minute or they collapsed because there's all kinds of, they. How does an auction house know what's a fake and what isn't a fake?
Right.
So it's a novelty. It's not about art. It's about novelty. I mean, I'd be interested if a well-known publisher published a novel by AI that became genuinely became a bestseller. In other words, that not simply out of novelty. Actually was considered to be of literary interest.
Yeah.
I would be interested. I would take a look at that. But I mean, I don't know what the object, if the object made by AI was actually a traditional painting or a screenshot of something?
No, well, so when I say AI-driven robot, it is a physical robot that physically painted something. So there, but its brain is generated by AI. And like all AI, it has learning capacity. So what could be interesting is how does this, well, now that a digital artist exists in the world, how does it paint 5 years from now? How does it paint 10 years from now? I mean, that could be
Is it
interesting.
programmed with art history, or is it? I don't know who. I mean,
I don't know what its data set was trained on. I don't know what eras of art, but presumably it was trained on some. I mean, it understands what paintings are. It understands how. Yeah, I don't know what it was trained on though. That's an interesting question. But here's what it said about its own art. The key value of my work is its capacity to serve as a catalyst for dialogue about emerging technologies. Okay, but none of that is about art, aesthetics. It exists. It knows that it's not an artist. It knows it exists as a promotion for technology.
It has obviously absorbed a lot of press releases by art galleries that use this kind of language. No, it's true. Which when you actually drill down on it, doesn't say anything about the appearance of the object that's being presented.
Yeah.
But it has to do with identity. I mean, there are all these buzzwords that sound, I mean, they sound good, right? They're not silly words, but they don't actually, it's text. It's not, art is not text. So, I don't know. I should take a look and see what this thing looks like. But
the painting itself is a painting of Alan Turing, who is a sort of a scientist and a father of AI.
Yeah.
The painting itself is fine. I don't think anyone thinks the painting itself is very interesting. But
that sounds like it's very old-fashioned.
It's
a figurative painting of
semi. No, I mean, yeah, no, it's fine. It's not a portrait. I mean, it's not like an old master's portrait.
No, but it's the idea. It's not moving. It's not moving the conversation forward about what is art.
No, and I also wonder who picked the top. Who told it to paint that, or did it choose the top? How much agency does it have? Because that's part of what an artist is, or you're a graphic designer. You're not an artist.
But you have had very good. I mean, you've had interesting looking objects painted by chimpanzees, and the fact is they've been given certain materials.
Yes.
Things have been removed from them before they got really muddy. In other words, yeah. So, I had somebody who wanted to interview me not long ago about some 3-year-old artistic genius that was selling. I don't know whether 3 years old or 6 years old.
Yeah.
Someone of that, and they're painting. Somebody was paying, not $1 million, but hundreds of thousands of dollars per person. And all I could say was that news item crops up somewhere in the world every 10 years. And
yes.
You never hear about that person again. So,
I don't know. No, there's a documentary, and the child in question, at least in this documentary, the documentary is called "My Kid Could Paint That." She's now an adult and does work in the art, somewhere in the artistic realm. In any event, when she was like 4 or 5, paintings of hers were being sold for $180,000. The culmination, at least, of the documentary is sort of this slowly pulling in on the art gallery and asking the person who sells it. Okay, you've talked a lot about, but what makes this special? What makes this? And I mean, he kind of just admits I just promoted it. Yeah, I don't know. It was kind of a really a gimmick. I don't know. Again, it's that you paid $180,000 for a work of art. You hang it on your wall. If you enjoy it, then it's worth $180,000, right? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, if you're willing to pay that for something that you like, and you're going to continue to enjoy it, but the selling factor in this case is the youth of the artist
yes,
unusual. Whereas Picasso, when he was very young, was taught by his father, who actually painted pigeons. Picasso's pigeons that he painted when he was 5 or 6 are amazingly skilled and lifelike. And he said, it took me a lifetime to paint like a child.
Yes, no, yes, yeah, no.
Famously said that, meaning that it's more complicated than you think.
Right. No, for sure. Well, no, and then the other piece is if you buy things for investment and that's what you anticipate out of it, well, I mean, that's...
Yeah, well, especially if you're buying a child's work of art as an investment, because you better be selling it before they reach the age of puberty or something, or the people, it will be a work of art by somebody who's not doing that now, but did it when they were 6. And
yes,
it won't have the same it has news value now.
Right.
I'd rather have a painting by chimpanzee, actually.
There's a dog on Instagram that paints, and I mean, the prints are only like $30. I might...
I think that's, anyway. Well, I just say bravo to the dealer. They got to make a living.
Yeah.
I hope they're not taking more than 50%. That's all I can say. I hope the kids. I mean, you can exploit kids in many different ways that are worse than that, right?
Sure.
Yeah. So what else is in the realm
of? Another one. We don't talk about sports. We don't talk about. Neither of us are too into popular music. But any thoughts on any thoughts on Grammys, Beyonce, Taylor Swift? Anything in popular music get your attention?
Well, I'll tell you. Do you know who Lionel Bart is? Lionel Bart is a British play. He wrote musicals in the 50s and 60s. Like he was hugely successful with musicals.
Okay.
Right? And he was a fairly colorful figure, but very much of a Broadway nature. Like Broadway. Yes. So I went to see for a development drinks party in New York for some people who had gone to my school,
yes,
who lived in America, right? And I hadn't done this in years, and so none of them were as old as me, right? And some of them were much younger. But I met this interesting guy who is probably, let's say he was 60 or so, and he had left my school and he'd got a job. His first job was, South Kensington area of South Kensington Tube Station in London. It's kind of bohemian-ish.
Sure, yeah.
Christie's used to have their secondary place there where they
South Kensington, yes.
So his first job at the age of 23 was running a pub opposite Christie's, which was owned by Keith Moon and Lionel Bart. Now, what was immediately interesting to me was that these two people would not only know each other, be in business together, because at that time, Keith Moon represented, wild rock and roll. And Lionel Bart represented, except
sort of
except
jazz hands.
they're just in the music business, right?
Yes, right.
And they're both actually. This guy, the reason he quit was because he, who he said was a very, very nice guy, but of course he tried to pay him with cocaine. No, it's true. So he said, he said, okay. And the guy who ran Christie's across the street was always coming in, and he had a conversation with that guy. And he said, I'm really looking for a job. And the guy said, what can you do? He said, well, I can lift stuff. And he said, okay, come, and we have a lot of furniture. So and he became a furniture designer. So, all right. But he had the same kind of, well, even more colorful start in life than I did, which I found interesting. I thought my school only produced people who went into their father's insurance businesses. But it's interesting to me to know that people who are in an industry may have close relationships and a lot in common, even though from a consumer point of view, we might think they represent different brands. Does that make any sense?
It makes a lot of sense.
To them, it's like we're performers. You know, you do this, I do that.
I would not even necessarily limit it to people within the same industries. I'm thinking now how many musicians are venture capitalists, and so I don't think about Ryan Reynolds as a technology guy. I think of him as Deadpool guy, but he also takes as many meetings with tech people because he has various tech companies. He also owns, back to sports, he also owns a British football team. I think he just sold that. But so who knows who, and a lot of it is they all have money, and that's what they have.
Yes, I understand that. Yeah, but I think to me the crossover within the industry is interesting. This is it. This is very vaguely related. I heard this on a jazz channel, and I don't know if it's true, but an older jazz musician, and they've been playing some South African jazz, and the older jazz musician said that Artur Toscanini had been quoted, I couldn't find the quote. He said, one day the hallowed halls of classical music are going to succumb to the African beat, the beat of African music.
Yes.
Toscanini, that must have been I don't know when, at least no later than 1920.
Sure.
Amazingly prescient coming from a quote unquote classical composer. But that doesn't mean he wasn't listening to everything else.
Right.
Yeah. Because I think people who are really interested in music, regardless of what they may choose to play, listen to a lot or can.
Oh, well, no, absolutely. And I would say, well, no, some contemporary composers, especially those who do soundtracks, because soundtracks force you to write to a variety of different moods, but also specific cultural references. If a theme calls for a jazz-like theme or a rock-like theme.
Yeah.
And so Philip Glass, Stuart Copeland, who of course is from the Police, so he comes from a rock background, but also went on to do, like he did this theme song to the Equalizer. I think contemporary composers especially listen to everything, and you hear that influence, even when they are writing in a more traditional way.
Yeah. Okay.
Quincy Jones.
Well, just amazing arc of a life from basically defining the 20th century into the 21st century in terms of it's difficult to imagine someone he started off with Louis Armstrong and Duke Ellington. I don't know. Man had a great great talent and a great ear. I don't know. Is there a young Quincy Jones? I mean, maybe
Ooh,
Questlove. Does he that?
no, that would be yeah. No, yes. Um, but no, I mean, I don't think. Yeah, Quincy Jones is Quincy Jones. I mean, he lived in Seattle very briefly during his teenage years, but it was influential. It's where he got his professional start in jazz clubs, and at that time, Seattle had he lived in the Central District, which was the
Really?
traditional black neighborhood, and they had these jazz and blues clubs, and that's where he got his start as a musician. And he never forgot us. I mean, he has an auditorium named after him at a high school, and he always came back to Seattle and he always shouted it out. So he was especially beloved here and missed. And yeah, I mean, yeah,
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Um,
Well, the only other connection I make with that is that the last time that Jimi Hendrix played was at Scott's Jazz Club in London the night before he died, or his gig. And it's Ronnie Scott's is a jazz. I mean, but it's a solid jazz club, but it's not known for having rock musicians. So he was obviously playing jazz.
Yeah. Well, no, and I was just listening to. I love Jimi Hendrix. Also, Seattle connections.
Yeah.
But no, he was. I mean, the way he improvised on
Yeah,
the
most
guitar
of his improvisation is jazz. I mean,
is jazz. It's jazz. No, it very much was. Okay. Chappell Roan, who I think, I don't know, she's a musician, she's young, I think she's kind of like the next generation, because even like Taylor Swift and Beyonce are in their 30s, but she's young. But tell me how you feel about this. She was being interviewed, and she was talking about her influences. Her influence wasn't Freddie Mercury, but Rami Malek in the movie about Freddie Mercury. That's what inspired her.
oh, that's very interesting. So, but I thought, wasn't it Adam somebody? Oh, he was,
No,
Adam somebody or other was, he was, Adam somebody took took Freddie Mercury's job in Queen, in the real.
Oh, yes. Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah. No, yes.
No, but this is in the movie. Well, I think that's very postmodern.
I didn't.
I mean, I also say she's either very dumb or very clever, and maybe
No, yeah. Well, I think be careful. She's a fandom, but no, I think
no. But I'm saying I think that's interesting to claim to be influenced. Yeah, you could say.
I think it's a both and, but I kind of laughed about it, but I also, there are people, no, just to use as a parallel.
But she's too young to have seen Freddie Mercury.
Well, no, she's too young to have seen him live, and she's too young. No, because I actually remember when Live Aid, like this was my childhood when he rode out on Darth Vader's shoulders wearing a Superman shirt. He was the embodiment of everything I adored all in one package, and I loved. But that was a real memory. I didn't see it live, but I saw it on television, understanding this is a human being who lives in the world I live in now. He can only be a member or someone from the past. Yeah, no, and I get it. And so that part I get. I also understand being influenced by your own surroundings, by your own artists who are alive at the same time as you. There are people making neo-noir movies who never watched the original noirs or read the original, hard-boiled detective novel. Is that okay? And I see them, well, sometimes just doing.
Well, yeah. I mean, the same thing happens in art. Is it plagiarism? Is it parody? Is it an homage to? Is it?
Well, if you never saw it, it's not an homage. And is it plagiarism if you just didn't know? How much do you give credit for ignorance when people are blatantly ripping off the past, whether it's a song or art or whatever? when they probably didn't know. They just never educated themselves. They don't know. This happens in fashion design all the time. People don't, you're like, that's a Dior from the 50s.
Yeah, I kind of do think that I do have a problem with creative people, no matter how progressive they are or want to be, who don't know what came before them. If you don't know what came before, I don't think you can really move forward.
Advance it. No, yes.
You need to acknowledge it, you need to absorb it, and you need to change it. But you might be in the danger of, oh, I've discovered white shiny plastic boots, and I've never seen that before, and you didn't know that in the 60s everybody was wearing them. I don't know. I mean, I think the history of fashion is fascinating, and so because it is to some degree cyclical, but let's know what we're doing. Let's know.
No, yes.
Yeah.
And to that point, if I could give a plug to your book yet again, well, all three of your books really, but you don't need, you always said you don't need to do that in a classroom. You don't need to do that formally. You don't need to, I mean, you can educate yourself just by going to museums, seeing what you like, seeing
being
what
curious, being curious.
Yes.
Yeah. And then you'll know if you're copying something, you will be doing it deliberately and for a reason. And that may be fine. That may be what you want to do. But to produce something and you think, wow, I've knocked this out of the stadium. It's amazing. I've never seen anything like it. And people a couple of years older than you will say, that was done in the 90s. You know, I don't, whatever it is.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, I know. I didn't think we were going to have, I was worried if we weren't going to talk about politics.
Yeah.
But no, what is your week looking like? What are you?
I've got auctions this week. It'll be very busy. I'll be out every evening.
Okay.
Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. But not for the weekend. I'll be back. I'll be okay. It'll be busy. It's fine.
Sure. How have you, so we haven't talked about, I mean, well, I guess probably, hopefully, knock on wood, it's a good thing. Either our health, how have your back and your walking, have you felt? Like,
I had some problems with my hamstrings, and I went to the doctor, and he sent me to, gave me a prescription for phys ed. And I've been going Mondays and Friday mornings. It's very good. They're doing a very, very good job. I have this young guy called Austin who's he's just been in the Army, and he's training. He's a trainee, and he told me on Friday morning he just had his first date with a Rockette, and he's very nervous about the second date since he hadn't dated in a long time, and she has to go back to Canada in January. So I'm playing I don't know if what help I am, but he's confiding his love life.
Yes.
I'm up to a point in me. He's a very nice guy, and I like him. Therefore, the stuff he makes me do, which is sometimes painful, is okay.
It makes a difference. No, it makes a difference. How they are about it. No, I agree. Yeah. Okay. Have a great week. I love you.
You too. I love you. I love you.
Bye.
Oopsie.